Bankers Note versus Total Recall, a debate which has divided the whole of the old school player base. And I've got to be honest, I picked Banknote last year, and knowing what it can do, I was simply going to pick it again. But then I decided, well, this is going to be probably one of the biggest decisions this year. So I went through every benefit I could think of for both and compared the two together, and what a complete eye-opener this has been. And I'm not talking about just the obvious things that spring to mind, but the ones that you wouldn't usually think about, the ones that in a race this close could make all of the difference, and it has for me. But first, let's compare the things that we all know. Like Banknote and Total Recall will let you stay at any boss for as long as you want. Banknote means that you can unnote as much food and prayer pots as you like and note the drops that you get, and Total Recall simply allows you to bank the drops and teleport straight back with an inventory of food. The same goes for skilling methods. If you're mining with Banknote, you just note all the resources that you gather, and Total Recall lets you bank the ores and then teleport straight back. If we're being honest, the bosses, there's not much difference between the two. Whilst Banknote is slightly more efficient, every boss that drops a ton of items becomes a little bit of a pain with Banknote, especially when a task is to kill hundreds of them and you end up unnoting 1 or 2 pieces of food at a time, juggling things around just to try to pick everything up, and inevitably you end up leaving some stuff on the ground. For skills though, Banknote is the clear winner. Whilst both of these relics are absolutely amazing, not having to teleport to a bank and back every time you mine, smith, woodcut, train construction and so on saves you a lot of time overall, especially at rune crafting, where Banker's Note is absolutely off the scale. But there are a lot of things these two can do that you ordinarily would not think about, where Total Recall has advantages over things that Banknote simply can't do. So these are all of the things that one can do that the other one simply can't. This year, as opposed to last, you can set a teleport location and you don't need to teleport away from it first. And the Crystal of Memories we get will always teleport to that spot unless we change it. So we can do any of the following. Any quest that's a bit of a pain because it's got an out of the way place you have to constantly keep going back to, you can save that area and teleport to it anytime you need. And whilst they confirm that you can't teleport to the end of an agility course to get the large XP drops, nothing's stopping you from doing what we can do in Seer's Village and teleport from the end of a course to the start, saving a little bit of time each lap. In the first leagues we had walkers, and this leagues we could have runners, because at Volcano you can teleport from one side to the other and watch all of the runners trying to get through the circles whilst you're attacking the boss. Not exactly groundbreaking, but it will be funny to see. At Barrows, you can skip the entire dungeon by simply placing your Total Recall teleport at the chest, although you can also do that one with the clue sigil. The longest part of Sullier Steps, where you can run from over here to here, can be completely avoided by setting the location in this place. Plus, whilst you're doing any long grind, you can have your teleport spot ready at a hair patch or even a birdhouse run to get some useful supplies or a decent chunk of Hunter XP every so often. When doing Hunter rooms or Slayer tasks, you can set it to be at a Hunter guild or right next to the Slayer Master for faster tasks. And if we get the Slayer relic that lets us pick our tasks, we can also put it next to the creature that we want to kill instead. Although of course the NPC contact spell avoids needing to do that if you have it. You can also get a steal an artifact task and then set your teleport to the center, saving yourself running all the way over here. And this method is usually only a little bit less XP than the best methods apart from Rogue's Jests. So it will make it the best XP outside of those, and we'll probably have a bunch of tasks for this as well. Temple trekking is going to be far less of a pain if you plan to do it, since if you can't do any path you won't end up in the swamp, since you can just teleport back to the start and simply try again. In the Archaeus library, after you periodically collect the books, you can then teleport back here to the start and hand them in much quicker. You can set your Motherlode mine spot to the conveyor belt, saving you a little bit of time each load that you do. If the blast furnace is allowed this year, you can teleport from the chest straight to the conveyor belt. At the Perilous Moons, you could save the chest or the entrance to any of the bosses to save running to at least one of them during it. And there's also a couple of things that probably won't work, but will be absolutely amazing if they do. Being able to teleport to the end of the Rogue's Den and not having to do this course for the millionth time in another temporary game mode would be amazing. The other and the biggest by far would be the Summer Garden, and I asked Bod Husky and then someone else did as well, and he didn't reply to either of us, so he simply might not have seen it. But then again, it's the type of place that would be completely broken if they did let it happen, but also a massive leveler between the two relics. Teleporting to the end of the Summer Garden to be able to pick the fruit incredibly quickly would be absolutely amazing thieving XP. Presuming we can collect a fruit every 5 seconds, that would work out to be 2.2 million XP per hour, not including the league's boost, and the current best method is 330,000 per hour. With the boost, that could be over 30 million XP per hour. Finally, there's the main reason if any you're going to pick Total Recall this year. But first, the things that Banknote can do that Total Recall can't. It allows you to have a stack of skill and supplies in your inventory, unnote them when you're doing various things, and get skill and XP during it. It lets you train all of these skills during what is normally our downtime. You can fletch logs, train crafting, make potions, or superheat ore into bars, and you can do any of those things doing the following: questing where there's a lot of running, agility, some hunter methods where you can only set one trap at a time, when you're moving around the map, doing stealing artifacts, between boss spawns, Rimhaven agility course, Fish and Trawler after you've got your points, Hallowed Sepulchre if you're a good player, Mahogany Homes contracts, Pyramid Plunder on any level that you're not looting the urns, and Sorceress's Garden. Although I haven't tested all of those, so there may be one or two of them where you can't actually bring items in, but you get the point. If we compare the two right now, it's very close. Maybe Banknote wins for efficiency, because essentially training 4 skills during your downtime is a big advantage, although it's also sweaty as hell and can drain some of the fun out of leagues for some players, whereas Last Recall is far better for those wanting a more quality of life relic. However, Total Recall has its last trick up its sleeve, one which really brings the two closer together in my opinion. The change they've made this year is every time you teleport, you restore your special attack energy, hit points and prayer. That means that most bosses, you don't need food and you don't need prayer potions. You can simply set your teleport inside the room with the boss as long as it's not instant, and anytime you do, you can teleport a few tiles away and you've just restored all of your stats. It may even be possible to use this to avoid certain mechanics, as usually a teleport animation negates any damage or area effects. But that is just the start, because the special attack energy is huge for certain bosses and especially certain regions. Take for example the Dog Sword. With decent gear and max stats, before we add in any combat masteries, this will hit on average for around 60 damage and reduce the boss's defense by that much. Plus, you can do it twice per kill. The Dagonoth Kings and God Wars dungeon bosses apart from next have 255 health, the Barrows brothers have 100 health each, Chaos Fanatic and Crazy Archaeologist have 225. The other aspect of the God Sword is that it has 100% increased accuracy, so by the time we add in League's relics and masteries, you're really going to miss anything at all, even if it's not weak to slash. A lot of these bosses will die with just 2 specs, and others are going to have the health massively reduced, plus the defense low by an average of 120, which is again likely to be boosted by the masteries. Just the other day I was reading some messages and players were debating about certain builds that lost 1 damage from the max hit, but if what this relic can do is put on the DPS for any build, most of us will probably pick it, well, for certain regions anyway. You can't save a teleport inside an instance, but nothing is stopping you from killing the boss once, teleporting outside and coming back in with full special attack energy and doing it again. All it means is that for instance bosses, you can't use the tactic of killing the boss just with this special attack energy by teleporting every time you use up your spec and then speccing the boss over and over again. Although of course you can do that against bosses not in an instant, we just don't know if that's going to be worth it because there is a delay teleporting and that may lose your DPS that you would have gained. So even using just 2 special attacks per kill, most of the wilderness bosses are going to melt to 2 special attacks, and Total Recall will save you so much time when you think we have to kill each boss hundreds and hundreds of times. Ascania is pretty similar, again with pretty low health bosses. In fact, almost every region has at least one boss where this is going to be very useful. However, not in raids unfortunately, which is its one downside. So which one should we pick? Well, after I went through all of that, I'm now completely and utterly torn, and part of me wishes I hadn't even done this because I'm so conflicted. But I think for me, with combat masteries just coming out and increasing our accuracy by 100%, and obviously with range never missing, I think I'm leaning towards Banknote, but I can definitely see why anyone would take Total Recall too.